the Brisa Prikavis. So I'm just like 2 minutes to explain a certain pasuk in Chumash, if you don't mind. This parsha, there's an interesting lashon of the pasuk, which anybody who knows more in Nevuchim would be able to see what this means. Pasuk says in Ba'aloischa in Yud Aleph Dalet, it says V'asafsufa she b'kirba yisavu taiva v'yashuva yivku gabnei Yisrael v'yemer miyachirenu basa. The Ramban explains that there are two groups here. There's a pasuk she b'kirba yisavu taiva. That's one. That was basically some kind of a compulsive desire. And then it says also, a Yivku Bnei Yisrael, that's the regular Jews, that's what he writes over here. He writes to Ramban, V'tama Safsa Shebekivu Isavu Taiva, Shloyem Chishon Bedava, Ki Ahadam Lamon L'Soiva, etc. There was no problem. That's a simple thing. Then it says afterwards, this is then he points out, then it says the idea of afterwards, the Chanus Hadaga, that he describes that all the Jews had this problem because they hadn't had fish since they left Egypt. But as far as meat is concerned, people had behemoths, people had that. There was no reason to go crazy about it. He points out there were two groups of the Asapsa, which had some kind of impulsive desires, and yet people would miss a good grilled trout. That's what it says. That's how he describes it over here. The Meister, the Lusha, the Pasuk is this Avu Taiva, which can be understood. They had some kind of impulsive desire, compulsive desire for having Taivas. Now that's the what it means, and so the Meister, that's a Mer Nevuchim. I sent it to you just now in your phones if you want to see it, where the Mer Nevuchim explains that. That a person of stature like Adam Arishan in the very beginning, it did not live with desires, rather he lived with intelligent approaches of you eat things for nutrition. You do things because they're right. You always look at what their purpose is. And therefore the question on the table is it right or is it wrong? Does this fit with my purpose? Does not fit with my purpose? He never engaged in a subjective non-logical language of, hey, does this make me feel good or make me feel bad? And since good and bad are totally subjective terms, the word good and bad are nothing more than a concoction of human beings in language to describe categorizing things which they have a pleasant reaction to versus things which they have a bad reaction to. There is no objective good or objective bad. By definition, those terms describe the kind of reaction that you have for. Is that Rabbi Shulman? Am I looking at Rabbi Shulman there? I don't believe it. Okay, anyway, that's what it seems to be. That l'chayra is that's what the Rambam describes as man prior to sinning. He basically didn't even think in subjective terms. He didn't look. Therefore, there's no possibility of any impulsive desire, the idea of he has these impulses, he can't contain himself. Everything was defined by logic. Taiva, by definition, is a will not governed or defined by any logic. That's the difference between taiva versus ratzain. Ratzain means something you will, but you have an idea of why and what. Taiva, by definition, means it's something which is totally not defined by logic. Therefore, naturally, it's a ratzon, not yet. The ratzon not defined by logic, and therefore not limited by logic. Taiva is basically something which is totally based on imagination. This is a davar pashut. It's nothing to do with science or with math, to say the least. Okay, it's purely in the world of imagination. Therefore, we have these endless realities. That's what you call a taiva. So the Rambam himself points out the question was, how could Adam of this capability sin on the first day of his creation? And the Rambam actually describes how in the encounter, without going into between Chava, Eve, whatever we're going to call her, and the serpent, they were introduced to the possibility of walking away from the I would say the restricting world of logic into a much more colorful world of subjective imagination. And that's exactly what the serpent introduced to Eve. And then she suddenly said, wow, she saw that the fruit was beautiful and it was good, taiv, And taiva hu le'inayim, she was actually now saw the fruit beforehand. She saw it as a fruit. Now she saw it as a taiva. That's the pasuk in Bereshis. She suddenly saw it. It was a totally different approach. And they liked that idea. So I'm going to read the Rambam. I sent it to you in the second page. It's worth reading all of it. It's in the underlined right column, underlined sentences. It says as follows. V'kasher chata v'nata acharei tavotav hadimyoniot. But once he sinned and he swerved towards his obsessive desires, which are totally a product of imagination, tavotav hadimyoniot v'tanugot chushav agufanim, and now what he wanted was not objective reality, but the sensual pleasures of his body, which have nothing to do with the mind. At that stage that man had decided to walk away from logical thinking and decided to let himself, like float on the waves of pleasure and obsessive desires and imagination. At that point in time, then he was punished. What was he punished with? Once man moved towards obsessive desires and sensual pleasures, the punishment was that he immediately lost his capability of being governed totally by logic. God will not have that. If you want to sail on the waves of pleasures, you will automatically lose the capability of being governed by logic. So God simply said, listen, your sin was not your eating of the apple or whatever it's called. Your sin was because you were mis'ava l'taiva. You wanted to have the capability of obsessive desires, and yet you wanted to then retain your high intellectual capabilities, but you want, sometimes you want to you want to go on vacation. I don't just want to be a robot that works with seichel. No, do me a favor, let me sometimes indulge. I hear that quite often. And God said, basically, once you chose to indulge, well, if that's the case, goodbye. Because in the world of emes and sheker, there's no such possibility of taking a vacation from emes. There's no middle ground between emes and sheker. It's other emes or it's sheker. The middle ground lies in the world of imagination, which is nishkin emes. So if you chose sheker over emes, goodbye. Go live with it. And that's what happened. Nishlala mimenu, Ram writes, he lost that intellectual prowess, that capability of being governed totally by truth versus not truth, objective reality. And therefore, once he lost that capability, it's that when he rebelled from the commandment, it's because he had that high level of reality. That's why he was commanded to live that way. But as soon as he lived in obsessive desires and had lost that capability of thinking, what happens was he failed. So in other words, people think that the chait was because he ate the fruit. No, the chait was he was misave taiva. The einish was that he was nishlol mimenu aseichel. At that stage, he was mamre in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and ate the fruit. That will be an answer to a great question. How could a great man of that stature sin? The answer was misave taiva. This is l'chayr. This is pasuk pshutish mikra of this pasuk. Asafsa v'sher b'kivu isavu taiva. What does this mean? It's very simple. They were obviously they were all neviim, kimavur in Rambam and Ramban. That from Kriyas Yamsuf further, they all were b'dagas navi of Yecheskel. This is what Chazal say. Rosa shivcha ayam mashalora Yecheskel on neviim. So pashut of Chazal means only during the Yam. But the Rambam and Meir and also the Ramban and Pashut Lukas specifically say that no, this went away all the way until the end. They say that at the time when Moshe Rabbeinu was angry at the Jews by the smiting of the rock, How could he be angry at the Jews? They were all Begeder Yecheskel Hanavi. He writes it in the Furish. The Rambam and the Ramban quotes it in the Chukas. So we're talking people of very high stature. Now, anybody knowing what a Navi is, realize he lives in an unbelievable world of intellect. We read that in the Rambam and Perek Zayin, Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah. Where is the downfall? And the answer is just like Adam Arishan, he's Avu Taiva. They were weak people, and they wanted a break. Rabbi, come on, like relax. Let's do a little agada or something like that. Ich weiß, give me a musashmuz. Ich weiß. Let's have a tiyul. Ich weiß, in some inspiring rock star. I don't know whatever it is. I understand it totally. This the frailty of human beings, which is to be expected. It's normal, thank God. I mean, otherwise you probably crack. Well, they cracked. His Avu Taiva, they had an obsessive desire for Taiva. They'd like to go brain dead for a week because this being brain aware creates major restrictions. They wanted to have that mamish Adam Arishan. So just pointing out, this is a double passion. Anybody who is regular Mar Nevuchim, as soon as you see this pasuk, this is what hits you. So that's some of the pshat of his Avu Taiva. What do we know from this? We know that we should try not to be the Asapsuf, and therefore we should try at least to minimize our taiva for taiva. We shouldn't always want taiva. Maybe sometimes they have a ratzon for taiva, I can understand. At least it's logical, I need a break. But they didn't have a logical will, I need a break. They had a taiva for taiva. They were upset. They were sick of it. Just give us something, let us go brain dead. That the Lashon didn't say Ratzun. He's Avu Taiva. They had a Taiva for Taiva. They were going crazy. So we have to hope that we don't go close to that situation. That's all I have to say. Okay, Shine, are we together today? Yes. Okay, that was Yoitziv and Divrei Agada, and now we can go further. So that will be your vort at the table on Shabbos. Okay, I've supplied you a vort, like a good teacher. Okay, I don't know what this is, but Lamais, it's an emes. Okay, let's go further than what we were talking about before. I'm looking at the what's it called, the YouTube, but I see some people are teaching things all over the place. They didn't start Kuf. So did Rabbi Rosner start Kuf Chavav? I don't know. On the YouTube, he's like, I don't even know, he's all over the place. I guess he's doing his own thing. Whatever it be. I saw Reb Moshe started Kuf Chavav. Very good. Good. So I'll be the next one to start. Here it goes. So first, let's just finish what we have here. The question was, once we understood that what the getter of Ki and Pesach, King and a Guf is and what not, the Machlais or Shleichish and Reb Yochanan, and it came out that according to Shlok of Yochanan, what's the Agdara? The Agdara is that you have a Kinyan in the Guf for Paris, in your Guf for Paris, Mashenk, and according to Shlok is you have Paris. There's a Schus Paris in my Guf. You have the Paris in my Guf, but it's my Guf. I own the Sibas of Paris. You own the Paris in my Guf. You are the Baal of the Paris. And as I sold to you. Within my Sibas of Paris, you're the one that gets the Teitzah. I'm saying this for a purpose. I don't want you to think it's a Davar Shalei B'Layla. You have in my Sibas of Paris, you have the Paris. Okay? Doesn't mean that you're just buying the Paris. You have in my Sibas of Paris. It's a Chiddush Dikakini. It's in my Sibas of Paris. You're the Baal of Paris. I am the cause of I'm the owner of the reason. You're the owner of the fruit. Okay, that's a kinyan mechudish b'yaser according to Rish Lakish to say such a thing. We can understand where Rabbi Yochanan disagrees. Otherwise, any idiot would ask the question, it's Davar Shalei B'Layla. Right? This is the get at Rish Lakish. That's the shot when a person gives someone Paris. Now the question was, if you hold that the son has kinyan, when the father gives it to his son, what did we say? We said that that's the case. The son sells it. Why the mechira? Only if he's alive at the time of the death of the father. If he's not alive at the time of death of the father, so then the din is that the mekach is bottled, nothing was sold. And we didn't really understand why. I told you I want to see a certain Rimigash. I'm going to read the Rimigash again. Rimigash writes in Kuf Lamed Vav to Ramasli Itmar, Elali and Pairs Bilchud who the Conley Avila Guf. Once he writes before that the father does not have the total guf, he only has a guf le'inyan perish. That's one line which is very important. Elali and Pairs Bilchud who the Conley Avila Guf. Then he writes in another line, is the nami kiyim baguf le'inyan perish. That's what he writes as far as the father is concerned. It's not a total kinyan of the guf. Elam mikna le'inyan perish is kinyan as far as the perish are concerned. What's the nafkamina? The iboy lekech lezvuna leguf lematza lezvuna. It's a davar pashut that he wants to sell. He wants to sell the guf. He can't sell it. So he says, "B'kivin shekain imayis leben b'chaya av." If the son dies in the life of the father, lest they lekech lamida. Why? So here he says a sentence. The beidna dezavne minei. At the time when he sold it, when he bought it from him, akati loy nisraikin kiyin aguf labet. What does nisraikna mean? Nisraik, the Moshe button Gemara Nedorim is that there's a din of a naira marasa. That the naira marasa basically she's in the bilus of the father. And when she's an arusa, so to speak, she's somewhat in the bias of the father and also the bias of the husband, as far as Afar's Nadorim is concerned. And when she gets married, nisraikna rishusa av rishusa ba. In other words, what happens, that rishus that the father has now is poured in, is emptied out from his rishus, and that rishus goes into the rishus ba. That's the lashon of nisraikna found in the door. It means to say, so to speak, not that he acquires something new. There's something waiting for him, but at the moment, that which is his is found in the rishus of the father. When you marry, it gets poured back into your rishus. Now, what does he mean in this context? Let's look. He said, the implication is that the kiyin aguf leperis is not something which, so to speak, has to be reacquired, but it has to be misraikin, has to be poured. That goes poured directly into his box. Mishum the b'shusei the av hava. V'imai sa'av b'chaya ben istalik le memela hauschlusap. And if the father died in the chaya ben, that schus which he had in this guf leperos is mistalik memela. To have a la'av beguf, that schus that he has in the guf for the parish is mistalik memela, because he only had it lizman chiyusay. The kimle b'shus of the ben, and that schus now is in the rishus of the ben. Once again, that schus which the father he had is in the rishus of the ben. That goes into the meidne de kasven elei ha'av. The igla milsa the he shaita have a nichse shum achi kan lekech at kan. What's shtei. What's the agdor? So l'cheretz gans mavur. This is what this is like. It's a double pasha that he takes for granted. The kiyin aguf of the son, he has a certain chisar, and the chisar is that as long as that schus cannot realize peirosh, but he has is a kiyin aguf which doesn't have kiyin for guf for peirosh. That's what he doesn't have. That is somehow called as a kiyin aguf which is not absolute. It's an eina muchot. It's, so to speak, a davar. It's like a davar sheina b'reshusay. What do you mean like a davar sheina b'reshusay? Just like by Yisura and Noah, what do we say? If you in Yisura and Noah, Lamaisa, your bilus is the bilus for everything. What happens if something was not Yisra or Noah and it became Yisra or Noah? For example, it was chametz. When you had the bias was a bias for guf and peris. Come there, based on b'shei shos, and all of a sudden it's mufka. Excuse me, do you have to make a new kinyan Moitzi Pesach? No, why not? You don't have to make a new kinyan Moitzi Pesach on the kinyan Aperis. What do we say? It's called Eina B'Shusay. And what does Rashi say in Psachim Eina B'Shusay? I think I mentioned multiple times. Let me just read it again. The Gemara says in Psachim Davav Amid Beis. Amar Rebbe Lazar, Shnei Dvarim Eina B'Shusay Shel Adam v'Asan Akasu Ki'ilu B'Shusay ve'elu En Bor B'Shusay Rabim v'Chametz Mishei Sha'asu Lamal. there are two things which are not in the reshus of a person, and the Torah puts it, so to speak, in your reshus for responsibilities. The first one is bar b'shus rabbi. Now, what does that mean? The mice, do you own it? No. Can you be magdish it? No. Can you sell it? No. You're a chayfer, a bar and reshus rabbi. You're a gazlan. You're a mazik arabim. You're everything bad. It's not yours. And yet you're called responsible because you changed this from being earth into a takala. And that aspect of takala is your yitzira. And since that aspect of takala is your yitzira, that's why you're chayiv on the board. This is all taken for granted. Okay, it doesn't matter at the moment with l'chavote, that is like your yitzira sabor made you the bal habor. What do you mean? It made you made a takala, therefore you made a mazik, you transformed the earth into mazik. You're called the owner of this mazik. Now you're an owner in any halakha in mammon, it's no. No, it's a chiddush Torah. Why would I be responsible for this? I didn't damage anybody. May I change the terrain of the guy? Change the terrain over here. That's all I did. Okay. So why am I responsible? The Torah made it into your reshus. You are now called the owner. Owner for what reason only? Only for responsibility. And we say it's not the halacha since you're chayfer bar, you're chayiv. No, the get of the thing is since you're the chayfer bar, you're called the baal habor. You're called the baal habor. Here, baal means owner. What kind of ownership? It means an ownership for responsibility. And what's it called? So why did the Gemara say "Eina b'shusay"? Must have should say "Eina shaloi." So Rashi Taka writes on the words "Eina b'shusay," "La b'shusay," "Eina shaloi." There are times when we talk "Eina b'shusay," we mean it's not in your reshus at all because it's not shalcha. Now, what does that mean? Don't we know the reshus and shaloi are two different ideas? We know that from the famous Gemara, Baba Kamen, Baba Metzia, and multiple other places, that if someone steals something and there was no yush, the Ganav cannot be Magdish and the Nignav cannot be Magdish. The Ganav can't be Magdish because it's Eina Shalai, and the Nignav cannot be Magdish because it's Eina B'Shusai. It's a memory of Rabbi Yochanan found in multiple places. So it is true, there is a time which we differentiate between Eina Shalai and Eina B'Shusai. They mean two aspects. But the fact of the matter is, what this Gemara is telling you, don't think they're telling that is Eina B'Shusai is a chisorin in the shaloi. There's one thing called mine. Now there's mine, a total mine, and there's mine, a limited mine. The pshat is if it's Eina Shaloi, it's Eina B'Shusai, it means it's not in your reshus because that's not yours. Why do you have to mention Eina B'Shusai? Say already Eina Shaloi. The Teretz is because once again, and look, if that's the case, it's not even an equation between Chametz and Pesach, and so to speak, bar by Chametz and Pesach. What's the halacha? So once again, what do we say by Chametz and Pesach? By Chametz and Pesach, say you own something, and all of a sudden there's no leishtigzel on you. Why is there no leishtigzel? What took away my kinyan aguf? Why is there no leishtigzel? We learned that in the Ritva Sukkah. I also pointed out there that even the Ritva agrees that there's no leishtigzel. The Ritva only says that since basically there's a core ownership which you had, it's still called yours and not someone else's. It's still called lachem. But to create such an ownership is impossible. The Ritva sheet is the machlekes of the Ritva and the Ravid and Sukkah Lamedal is only one thing. You add an esrog. And then it transformed into you had a tree, and the tree grew fruit. You have the eights and you have the Sebus eights. And now the tree grew into Orla. Okay, but the Sebus eights is mine. The Sebus Apri is mine. What's mafkia my Sebus Apri? The Teretz says you may have had the Sebus Apri, but it didn't develop into a total, and your Sebus Aguf did not, your Guf, which is the Sebus Apri, did not develop into a Pri. So what is it? It's a chesron. You're bailus on the guf, because the type of sibus apri which will ultimately lead into a sibus apri, which will lead into a non-pri. You have a shiba which is supposed to give both guf, a guf which is supposed to give peiros, and this one does not give peiros because you cannot use it. That's a chesron in lachem. That's what obviously. That's why there's halacha. There's no gezel. According to most Rishonim, and what is the Ritva Taina? No, even if there's no gezel, doesn't mean it's not mine. Because remember, I had this same Sibis Apri, next year will give me a fruit. That means I have something there which at the moment can't be realized, but will be realized tomorrow. That there's no gazelle. You're right, because that realization, at the moment your siba doesn't create a shali, a shalachem. But tomorrow it will. So therefore, this siba still has enough to be called the lachem. That's a machlekes of Ritva and Ravid that we mentioned already a few times. At the end of the day, so by chametz and pesach, what's the get of the halacha? The get of the halacha is I have a key in a guf, but it's a key in a guf which is mufka from Paris. That's called a chisorn in lachem. L'chayr in the stomach of the Gemara, it's called a chisorn in lachem. As I come to forget that ritva is the tzorachim from the stomach of the Gemara. Once it's ein b'shusa, it's called ein b'shusa. You don't. There shouldn't be an iser of lo yirah l'chachametz. And we say asan akasav kila b'shusa. That afal pikein it's called shulcha. How the Ritva will explain the difference between this and orla tzorach li'iyun, I don't know how to answer it. Okay, but that's the Chorei stomach of the Gemara. So what do you see from this Gemara? You see that the Chsar b'Shusay equals the capability of usages is not just independent of of the basic ownership. It's an expression of the basic ownership. And if you can't do that, you have a certain depletion in the basic ownership. If you have no Paris at all, Feltus and Kiyin Aguf, which is reminiscent of the Rashbam Daf Nun, that if you don't have any Paris at all, and that's Oymet Laguf is Oymet La Paris. So Pshat is you're lacking in Kiyin Aguf. That's what I sent you to the Rashbam Daf Nun. This is what he's writing here. So basically, you always look at one thing. You look at the Kiyin Aguf. Is this the Kiyin Aguf which is nicer Paris or not nicer Paris? So that's what he says. He says, Lamai said, just like Eina B'Shu says the Chisorin. What's Eina B'Shu the Chisorin? Because the Chisorin, you're not giving, your ownership doesn't express itself in usages. If the Eina B'Shu of Yisra no, it's called Eina B'Shu. You don't have usages. Okay? Forget that what's the most you have by bor? You have responsibilities. That's not enough. And the Chiddushes know that responsibilities are like usages. That's what the Gemara says, Eina B'Shusay by bor. It's very nice. I can understand that creating a Yetzirah makes it yours. But yours, it has to have for something. And all you have is yours for responsibility. It's Eina B'Shusay. You don't have it for usages. And the Chiddush is Ke'ilu B'Shusay. No, that although you have the responsibility is enough, as if you had it for usages. The implication that Gemara is that a key in a goof without any, which is mufka from Paris, is a chisar and key in a goof and shouldn't even be called yours as far as responsibilities. And that's a chiddush akra, that you have a usage for you have a key in a goof for responsibilities as it's equivalent to having it for usages. And that's a chiddush by bor. It doesn't mean to say that you don't need to. The Agdora of Shilcha is for usages. Elamai, you don't have it. There's a Chiddush HaTorah, it's for responsibility, although there's no usages. By Chametz and Pesach, it's right to the same thing. You have the basic core reality that, for goodness sakes, it's going to be yours right after Pesach. The teretz is, but at the moment, your key in a guf has been transformed. And l'chara, that's a reason that, so what do you have it for now? Only for what? Not for usages, only for responsibilities. All mechite, see? That should be called a lachem. And the teretz says, you're right. Mashiach came by Orla, there's no responsibility there. And since there's nothing there for usages, it's called bat lachem. Forget that's the stomach more like Rav Rishonim in Sukkah. The one which is problematic here is that ritva, which I don't know how to answer. But that's the stomach of the Gemara. So this is what means in this Rimigash. That basically what happens is the question is, what do you have? So you have a key in a guf, which in the situation at the moment is a key in a guf, which if your dad dies, that will be a matzah before you. That means your key in a guf is a siba for usages. If he doesn't die and you die first, your key in a guf is never a siba for usages. So now your key in a guf, these definition, depending on what will happen. The future will decide what you have. And that's what he understands. He understands that Ein Chanami, that you can't sell it in the meantime, because at the moment you don't have usages. It's like Ein B'Shusay. If the father died, so Kumtes, why is it now mine? Because of what I had in the very beginning. So my Kiyin Aguf did realize that the usages and came to reality of the usage. That's called the Mechira, the Mechira. If the father didn't die, rather the son died in the life of the father, that means that which he had never was something which practically would ever get into usages. Now there's a Nakuda here. We divide here. There seems to be all the Rishon Agree Pshat in the Gemara. You need the acid test, according to the Gemara, is practical reality. I understand Ilule Diva Gemara. I would put up a defense of saying, who cares about practical reality? Theoretical reality should be enough. The Gemara doesn't think so. I'm willing to mevatel daiti to the Gemara. The Gemara thinks the acid test is practical reality. Having theoretical things for the future is not called a bailus. That's what he says. Basically, as long as the father has a schus of guf leperish, and that makes the key in a guf is something which is really not muchlat. I don't know if this will ever get into anything. So it's like a davar she'ein b'shusay. This is parallel to that Rashbam in Daf Nun. Now, if you look at the Ritva, the lashon of the Ritva, oh God, in Kuf Chavav, excuse me, yeah, right. Kuf Lamed Vav. Divrei HaMasler Reb Yochanan. So the Ritva, Kuf Lamed Vav Amud Beis, page Tov Kuf Tzadik in Moser Rav Kook. He writes, Elolaymer de Bekiyin Perish Yesh Sad Kiyin Haguf, Li'akev ala ben sheni yochel limkor legamra, Umiu ilu kayam kishemei sa'av al yanigmer kinyonai lemafreya im gmar misa. V'zocha beguf mishas kinyin v'zocha lokeach shaloi. This is mamish like the Rebbe Migash. Which he basically said, now what happens if there's a dinner mafreya? The text, what does it mean? There's a din of Breira. No, this is we need an acid test. If this is a reason for a reality, that's called the Bible that you have. We don't know. It could be, it could not be. I repeat, this is a major question which has to be answered. Make it tasty that you need a practical application. Why is not the theoretical option enough? I do not know. I don't think I haven't seen anybody which gives any swear miyashav aladas. I have nothing to say. I do know that any idea of mafreya means to say that it was always there, but it needed something for it to become into flourish, into realization. Now here there's another lashon of the Ramah in Daf Kuf Lamed Vav Oish Kuf Ayin Tes. The Ramah writes as follows: Mikore kanyen haben leguf kinyan gomer. Period. I'm going to skip a few words. Ela lemechel peira achas misasoi. Ul peira del acher misa basar gufa azle. Why does the ben get the peiris lacher misa? Because basar gufa azle. What does that mean? Interesting. He doesn't think that the kinyan peiris is just a kinyan lizman. The lashon, is that the case? He never sold it. No, he said the kinyan la'achar misa, the period la'achar misa, basar gufa azla. It's a major 4 words that have to be understood. He doesn't think that the father, the kinyan guf peris is only lizman. No, it's a kinyan of peris. When you die, I get it. Because why? Because I'm the balaguf. What does that mean? It would be much easier to say that since the kinyan peris of the father was only lizman, at that point in time, it was never sold, and it goes to the father, to the son. He always had it. That would work if you understand it's a shear, etc. But it's not a shear. We already learned in all the Rishonim except for that Rash, but it's not a shear. So what's the Agdor? The Agdor is quite simple. That is, as I mentioned before, as far as key in a guf is, when you have a key in a guf in something, that means you own the totality of it and its usages and all of its time for as long as the object exists. But you own. What happens? But once the key in a Paris is belongs to the father, It means to say this is a situation which doesn't let the key in the goof of the son realize itself, as I mentioned before. If I have a key in a goof, which normally, I want to understand one thing. When I have a key in a goof, does that mean I have a key in for sitting, for standing, for writing, for lying? Or no, I have a key in a goof, which is the reason for everything. It's as simple as that. LMI, I can sell particles, but basically the key in a goof is a siba for everything in one package. Now, what did I do? I basically took away the package called Perish and gave it to the father. At that point in time, what I've done is depleted my key in a goof. Not I've depleted, it was given to me that way. You got the key in a goof, son, but I basically have key in Perish, which means that which I gave you, I gave you a potential which can be realized and can, but at the moment is depleted. But you have is a reason for totality. That's what I gave you. I gave you a siba for everything with cutting off its swings. You cannot realize that. So at the moment, you may never be able to realize it. You may die before. But if you don't die before, if the father dies before, you have to make a new chalais, a new kinyan. No, that what you have will be the reason of all of always. It's as simple as that. So the pshat is very simple. The pshat is that this is what I'm saying here, that when father gave the son, he gave him guf. A guf inherently has a siba for everything. But then what did he say? He said, and only la'achamisa, but the peiros at the moment are mine. Okay, so at the moment you have something which is depleted, but it's you know what it's like? It's like you pulled the rubber band, but as soon as you let go, it goes back to its natural state. You have a siba, which if there's nothing else stopping it, will obviously flourish and become whatever it can be. And that's what he's saying here. That's what he's saying here. So therefore, Mamela, when the father dies, Mamela, the guf is mushlam, because the guf in essence is a siba for everything. It's not that he needs a new kinyan. This is the answer to our question. We asked, how can Ayem Lachar Misa work? You can't be Makna Lachar Misa. The Torah says, no, when I gave the son the guf, I be'etzim gave him a siba for everything. What did I do? I neuter that siba into a limbo state. That may be realized, it may be not. And as long as it may be realized, it's maybe not, it's not a kinyan mukhlat, it's not an absolute ownership, and that's a chizor in the shulchan. You can't sell that. Just like you can't sell something without rishus, you can't sell something which you don't know for every you know what to do, which is the parallel of we said by chametz and pesach. We don't say chametz and pesach, it's called b'shusay because after Pesach I'm going to own it. No, now there's a week that you're not. I have the reason for the next week, doesn't matter. Now you don't. So the same thing here. Look at the life of the father, like chametz and pesach. But as soon as Pesach is over, the reason of the next stage is because you're there, because you're the owner. That's the same thing here. The Bala Guf is the Siba of the Paris. There's no new Akna. Das Lichten Guf. Okay, that answers that question. Okay, so now we understand this was the biggest question I was bothered with. How does it work that the key in Paris works by Yom Lachamis? In light of this, I'd like to go back to the Razah. Now we understand the Shlokish and Rebbe, we understand key in Paris, key in the Guf, and we understand Matan Lachamis. In light of this, I'd like to start reading the Razah inside and finish this as the kids are Nimrods. What does the Razah mean? We know he doesn't mean Tnai. That's a Bia Sibakutcha. So let's look. There's two basic pieces here. First of all, in Divrei Amatzchol Vi'al. What's his question? Im anu omrim she'efshir tivtatel hamatana, a lashon of bittul matana. He says, Afal pi sha'avrim miyachshav. How is it possible there should be a bittul matana, although I'm saying miyachshav? Afal pi, how is it possible? There was this question where he doesn't understand how it works. Question number two, he asked a question from the Gemara by Matana Yom Lachar Misa. He says, so first of all, he says, it's possible. Let's look at don't bother. The hag about Kaisev Nechasav Bnei Lachar Misa, Shu Kaisel Mayom Lachar Misa. Sphere Rabbi Yechon she'efshit is batla matana. Kigain machar ben b'chaya av. Umeisa ben b'chayav shenizbatla matana. So we see, although you have mi'achshav, afal pikeng loikana kech. Why not? Mi'achas sheloi hayasham aben shoim b'makim aviv. Now, what exactly is the answer? What exactly is the Agdor? Well, over there, the Agdor, the Kinyan Gura Mi'achshav is not finished. That didn't come to blossom until he takes Paris. And that's what happens by Yom Lachar Misa. By Yom Lachar Misa is Mishai the Paris for himself, and therefore what happens is that through the Schi and the Kinyan Paris, Mamela, the Kinyan Aguf becomes the Kinyan Aguf, which is nice to Paris. But without that being true, it doesn't happen. So he says this is l'chayr. What would happen here is I have no problem saying it's mi'achshav, but since at the moment you don't have the Paris, so what you have is like a Kinyan Aguf, which at the moment doesn't have Paris. Will it be a Siba of Paris, depending when who will die first? And therefore, I have a possibility you don't have a Kinyan Muchlet, so at the moment you have a Guf without Paris, which is basically not a Kinyan Muchlet, and therefore it can be misbatel. The Lashon Bittul makes tons of sense at this stage. It's Bittul Matana. I gave you Guf, but the Guf becomes meaningless because it's never realized into Paris. There's a Pasha din of Bittul. It's a very simple thing. This is what he said. As long as the Kinyan Guf is not Shalom, it can be misbatel. Yes, of course. Just like a Kinyan Aguf of Chametz is meaningless during Pesach, it's called Eina Shaloi. Just like Yisur Hanoah, as long as it's Yisur Hanoah, according to most Rishonim, I think all Rishonim, there's no Yisur Gezel. Afal Pita, the day after Pesach, as soon as Pesach is over, it's yours. Yeah, it depends. If you live to be after Pesach, it'll be yours. If you'll die during Pesach, it won't. That's a davar pashut. Okay? The way I explained Chametz is very important. I never said Asan Kil B'Shusa, you're a total owner. The Chiddush is that ownership for responsibility is like ownership for Paris. Where's the nafkamina? What happens if you have Chametz in Pesach and you died in Pesach? Are you Yorshim, the Yorish of that Chametz? Are they responsible for that Chametz? What's the din? That's an interesting question. What's the din? Tanya said in the first year, the Yorshim are not responsible. It's in Kuntrusach and Shulchan Aruch Harav. Doesn't say that you're a bailim. You're only a bailim for responsibility. You're not a bailim even for Yerusha. You can look it up in Shulchan Aruch Harav. This Pesach is a big Kuntrusach and a big like page and a half dealing with this issue of machlekes between him and the Chok Yankiv. You can look that up. I'm trying. So I just want to go back to that in the Kuda. Yes, a guf with Hotishkim Paris is no. There's no gezo. It's not lachem. It's not shalcha. That's a davar pashut. So that's what we're saying over here. So in Mela, we don't understand. That's what he's saying. Therefore, as long as the Kinyan Guf is not shalom, I'm thinking batel. Now we have another question in the next Divrei Maslavim Taimar. If this is true. It's just like acharecha, which means to say I have a guf which is not shalom. She doesn't understand. If that's the case, why do we say why is it Masha'enkin because of if you're saying the only getter of Safta, it's like a Yom Lachar, it's giving to you a Lachar Misa. Why is the difference between that and the father giving to the child Lachar Misasa, which the din is that what the Mishnah says in Kuf Lamed Vav, the father cannot sell forever. He can't sell for more than his life. Why can the Safta sell for more than his life? That's the question. So now you cash on the table. Why? What's the difference? One of Shich, if they're both the Agdoras, that the second generation son or the Bas over here has the guf, and the Paris belong to the Mi'achshav, and the Paris belong to the Sapta Mi'achshav. Okay, granted. Since she has the Paris, so maybe your guf is not much, and therefore it's mishtalim. It gets fulfilled afterwards once you get the Paris, as we explained. But if that's the case, why is there enough? Why is it the Sapta can sell it totally? Mashenk and the father, you only sell Lizman Chiyusa. What does he answer? So he answers. He says, "The Maishna Gabakais Nechasel Lebita Acher Maishna Damina Macher Av Mechurim Achi Abnoi Acher Misa Macher Av Mechurim Achi Yom Zusulai Chuvascha Mishum Damina by Ishmael Acherecha Shani." Now, what does Acherecha Shani mean? In other words, when he said Ayom Lachem, he didn't say Acharecha. Here he said Nichser Lecha ve'Acharecha lebas. B'su Amrina Ela Acharecha Namitai Klaimar. What in Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Rish Lakish Acharecha Shani. V'afilo Amale mi'achshav. Efshe sheyimker v'yochel harishim ein sheni klum. This lies in the language of Acharecha. Why? Shekiven shomer harishim nichser lach. Gufu peris hiknai kishem sheyiknuim l'noisna imele nichser lach. V'hafa gav domalei v'Acharecha mi'achshav lepleni. Ein l'sheni imashishir harishim. What's he saying? He's saying a very simple thing. By the fact he says nichser lach v'Acharecha lepleni, I mean, say, I'm giving you everything. After your death, he will have everything. Now, by definition, if you're getting everything, that means you can also sell it. I'm telling you, I'm giving you whatever I have, you have. Ma macharish l'sheni. You're getting everything. And after you, he has everything. What does that mean now? Translated, it's saying he has everything that's left. There's a steer between the nichsei lach and the acharecha. By saying nichsei lach v'ach, it's not just the word acharecha, it's the context of nichsei lach, which means I'm giving you every nichasai, whatever I have, you're having, and acharecha. By definition, the word acharecha there does not mean you have it all now. What do you have? Whatever is left. And that's why he continues and he says, what's it like? It's as if he would explicitly said, when you go down to the field, whatever is left, that's yours from now. That's not a t'nai, it's a translation of the sentence. There's that dichotomy. The man says nichsei lach, which means I'm giving you the total everything, and then I'm saying v'acharecha. And there's the nafka mina. When it's not nichsei lach v'acharecha, so I understand nichsei lach. I'm giving my son la'acher misa. I understand I'm mishayir payers for myself and guf to the son. Bingo. That's the possible. When I say nichsei lach, nichosai lecha v'acharecha lepleni, the package there is translated differently. That's all this is. Here I want to, and that's what he's answering. Chalila, to say this is a tie, he simply means to say it's as if he would have said this. Now, the language of kishetered becomes very clear. At the moment, what am I giving you? I've given you, he has the guf and the peris. So what does the second one have now? If Sapta has guf and peris, and the bas, so to speak, has now something, what does she have exactly? What does she have? If Sapta has guf and peris, what does the bas have now? What does she have? The Torah says she has a schus. Those that guf and peris, the Sapta are meshubed to her. The bas is bailus when it happens. She has a schus to become an owner. That's what she has now. She has now a schus to become an owner, to realize ownership in what's left. It's al derech hashibud, and therefore she has to be yored to the sod. It's like a din gvia. She has a schus in all those sodais for realization when she collects them. This is literally, you should ask yourself a question. Why isn't this totally in Breira? How can I see nichser lach v'acharecha lepleni mashi yishtayer? For goodness sakes, how's the chalais chal? You don't know where. It's a davar she'eino mesuyam. There may be nothing. You don't know which and where. There's no boundaries. What do you do according to the Rishonim that in the chasim she'eino mesuyam you can't make a kinyan? How does it work? The answer is a davar pasha. The getter is you now have a schus in all the nechasim for ownership wherever you will be able to collect, which is parallel to all shibud nechasim. What's a shibud nechas? We mentioned this many times. How does shibud work? You have assets of $1 million. You owe me outstanding. What is it? $250,000. Okay. In which nechasim do I have a shibud in? You have a shibud on all the nechasim. In other words, you have a shibud on $1 million worth of assets to the tune of collecting $250,000. It's not that you only have for $250,000. You have a right in everything for collecting $250,000. And wherever you choose to collect, that's yours. But even the other ones were also yours for collecting. You just didn't collect them there. And since basically, it's not I'm saying you only had rights in where you collected, you had rights in everything for collecting it. That's not Breira. We learned that based on the Ran and the Dor. Well, if that's the case, this is what's happening here. You need a Yeridel and a Chasim. Because otherwise, what does she have now? She now has a schus in those Nechasim for realization of ownership when she can realize. This isn't a chayiv. We're not going to use the word shibud in the classical sense. That's the matani he's giving her. Rights in everything for realization of ownership at the time. That's why it's not totally embedded. That's why the Lashon, the Razah is very meduyak. The Razah says, Dafka kisheteired ben nechas. I asked that question, you read it in the Chasim. That's a Lashon of Gviyah. The answer is right. It's like a Gviyah. Sheteired ben nechasim she'isher l'charishin. Just like when you're goiva by a chayv, that is yours. As we learned that already multiple times. That's yours. That shibud is yours. Everything was mine, but I wasn't goiva it. Wherever I can be goiva was always mine. But when did it become a bailas gemura b'shas gviyah? Beforehand, it's only a potential of bailas gemura. That's what we call the shibud. Okay, so that's the Agdora over here. I think that's enough. Well, showing Yoitzik event, that should be enough at the moment, and I'm moving on. Okay, that's what I wanted to answer, and we can go further. Okay, Sean, I hope that was clear. Let's go to Kuf Chavav Amid Beis. I sent you a bunch of pages with a lot of sources, and I really hope that someone, if you printed it, your life will be easier. If not, you're going to have to go back and forth with it. Let's start. The Mishnah says, Aimer ish pleni b'ni b'chor lo yito pishnayim. Rashbam, ish pleni shuhu b'chor. He explains immediately, not that the Mishnah say ish pleni is b'chor, that's aleph, lo yitlo pishnayim. He's not talking about a yakeh here, that's how he reads the Mishnah. He says ish pleni shehu b'chor, lo yitlo pishnayim. That pleni, which is my b'chor, should not take it. Adrabah. What's he saying? He's pointing out, I'm identifying him as a b'chor. Not the ish pleni b'chor, ish pleni, which we all know as a b'chor. Ish pleni shehu b'chor is part of what he's saying. So he's being makar him. He's saying, oh, and he is the b'chor. So first of all, I'm making you into a b'chor. And now I'm saying you're a b'chor, but you will not get pishnayim. We say lo yito pishnayim, or ish pleni b'ni, lo yirishim echav, lo yomer klum. Shehisna masha kasav b'Torah. Zogt Rashbam again, ha'emer ish pleni b'ni, shehu b'chor, lo yito pishnayim. Inami, ish pleni b'ni, pashut, lo yirishim echav. Same thing. I'm identifying the person as my son, but I'm saying he will not get. Now, that's an instinct here. So what's the reason? Let's just translate the word t'nai before we go further. There's a mistake, which many people understand t'nai meaning condition. Well, if you see how it's used in so many different places in Shas, that's not a good translation. The translation is stipulation. Okay, just to have that very, very, very clear. A stipulation, if you will, is a stipulation means a certain requirement specified as part usually of an agreement. That's usually what it means. It means a certain requirement or a certain condition or a certain term, which is, so to speak, specified. That's what stipulate is. I stipulate in court. It means I specify a certain right or argument. Okay? So t'nai actually means a stipulation, just to have it very, very clear. Okay, it is used in context of condition. You're stipulating a condition, but not every t'nai means conditions. T'nai means stipulation. This will clear a lot of fog, you know what I mean? To get to it, that word has to be put on the table to clarify this, because otherwise a lot of this makes no sense. So what do we say? Well, he's not conditioning anything over here, but he is stipulating. He is stipulating, he's making a stipulation, which is uprooting a biblical law. Okay, legitimate. Now, what does that mean? Okay, what's the problem? What's the problem? In other words, with a few things here which have to be clarified, just to understand very clearly. First of all, this Mishnah, we know there's a next Mishnah, and the next Mishnah is the Mishnah of Yechim and Breika. And there we have a Mishnah Kuf Lamed. Rabbi Yechim Breika says, "Ha'emer ish pleni yeresheni b'makom sheish bas, or biti tiresheni b'makom sheish ben loy amar klum." And the Mishnah there also says, "Shehisna amashu kosev b'Torah." There the Mishnah says, "Rabbi Yechim Breika Emer im amar al misha roy liyorsho dvarav kayamim." Now we know the Gemara says a little further in that Midaf Kuf Lamed, Vatanya, actually it's one line before it widens out. Rabbi Shmuel b'nai Rabbi Yechim Breika Emer lo'nechliku abba v'chachamim al ache b'makim bas u'bas b'makim ben shelo yamar klum al manechliku al ben bein abanim u'bas bein abanos. Sha'aba Emer yirash v'chachamim lo yirash. That's the Gemara. I say this because in Yerushalmi it seems to be that they're not clear whether anybody argues with Yechim and Breika. But why would I waste time with that if in Badli it's first that his son said that there is a machlekes? So let's understand there's a machlekes between Yechim and Breika and Rabbanan. It's a very important nekuda. What the halacha is. And now everybody agrees that you can't just take somebody out of the blue and make him your Yerush and exclude your Yorshim at all. That's not going to happen. Let's read that language again in Kuf Lamed. Rabbi Yishmael b'nai Rabbi Yechim Breika Omer le'nechku abba v'chacham al ache b'makim bas u'bas b'makim ben. You're taking someone which is not royally Yerusha, making him a Yerush. Shaloi amar klum. Why not? Because he's masna alma shekasuv b'Torah. Alma nechliku al bein ben habonim ubas bein habonas. When you choose between the legitimate heirs, Abba Omer Yirash. You can. You have the right to choose between the legitimate heirs. Chacham Oimrim la Yirash. Chacham say you can't. Now, what are the reasons why not? Well, the Mishnah said why not. Let's go back to that Mishnah Kuf Lamed. Ha'emer ish pleni yeresheni b'makom sheish bas, biti tirashem makom sheish ben, lo yamar klum, shehisna alma shekasuv b'Torah. Yechim and Breika Emer im amar al misha roy liyorsha dvarav kayamim. Al misha ein roy liyorsha ein dvarav kayamim. What do we see here? We see it's something really very clear. Even in the case where they both agree, for example, ish pleni yeresheni b'makom sheish bas, or biti tirashem makom sheish ben, where there's no machlekes of Rabbi Yechon and Rishlach and Yechon and Breika and Chachamim. Yet they say the reason is because it's masna alma shekasuv b'Torah. That's the chisor. It's not because he doesn't have the right. Because he's not a bailim. It's because he has a bailim, but he can stipulate. But the stipulations which negate the express will of the Torah are null and void. That's all it is. Basically, you cannot stipulate against the Torah. It's a limitation to your capability of stipulating anything. It's irremovable. That's what you just said over here. Although you're interesting, why would you think you could? Why would you think you could? And this goes into a question. We see there are places where you can. It's a machlekes Reb Yehuda and Reb Meir. You must look this up, or specifically the Gemara at the beginning of Makkos. You can take it from there. A machlekes by davar shebam orin kedushin samachalef. What's the din by davar shebam mamay? Do we say can you be masna masher kosev b'Torah, or can you not be masna masher kosev b'Torah? Tais is asked a kasha even in ksubas nunvav. Every time you're Michael, a chayv, you're masna masher kosev b'Torah. The kasha of Re suggests you read it. Nunvav amid alf and ksubas. It's in your list. What do these things mean here? Okay, so let's get things very straight. It's very clear. This we mentioned, mamish, in the beginning of this parak, that from the we see one thing clear, that the manchil is called a meirish. That's clear. He's actively a meirish, and it is his ownership, which he actually is called the meirish, and hypothetically he would have the right to stipulate it's my ownership, which is extended into Yerusha. I can decide the process of Yerusha. That's the double portion. Because if you wouldn't have that schus moment to begin with, this wouldn't even need masna mashikosav b'Torah. By the bare fact that there's an isser of lo yuchal levaker, which is actually to be specifically talking by pchor. Okay, for example, that halacha. Okay, the fact that there's lo yuchal levaker, that would be one. Okay, and so but ela pchor b'nasnoi yaker losses lepishnayim. We know one thing. Basically, Chachamim learn the kavochem from pchor to pashut. That's the machlekes over there. Basically, we would have thought that you can be mevaker someone else, and there's a kamashmal on the pasuk that you can't. And now there's a machlekes. Do we extend that also to what happens by pshutim? That's the shaila. But in principle, there's one thing which is clear in the pasuk: you are the Meirish. It's not like something happens, you die, and automatically these things just go to them. No, you are actually the person which activates how, what, when, and where by your ownership. Your ownership is which is extended, and you will define it is you which are the Meirish. Therefore, you can decide where your ownership will go. You will decide where your ownership will go. Can you say, I don't want it to be a Yerusha at all, I want to give it to a Matanet to someone else? That's what the Gemara says. No, why not? It's masna mashikosav b'Torah. God stipulated and said that your ownership must continue only to mishpachas to your family. That's the way it is. Okay, but basically you're a Meirish, and this is not a machlekes. Everyone agrees you're a Meirish. That's the pasuk. Not only by Pchira, by Pashut, you're also a Meirish. By Pchira, it's a pasuk mefurish. Lo yuchal levaka ki and Pchor ben asno yakel lo tepishnaim. It's a lav. If hypothetically it's a meaningless activity, what kind of lav could be here? You did nothing. The fact that you're over an aved because you said something is effect. No, because the tzad was to say that you're saying something, create something, and we say no, you don't have the right to do it. Remember what you're doing. It's a monetary thing that you can do. The Torah says no, you can't realize that, right? And therefore, remember it's an aved if you try. But if there was nothing to begin with, it was just words. What's shach to say aloud? So it's a double push. I say this on purpose because I've seen otherwise. So it's clear that both according to Rabbana and according to Bechman Bracha, you're a Meirish. You define. What do you define? Obviously, you define vis-a-vis your bailus. You're not doing it when you're dead. You're not doing anything. So when are you a Meirish? The text is your mum and this. You as the Baal HaMammon are the Meirish. So now you can basically, now when I own my house, it's because I am actually a Meirish to my children. And therefore, it's not to say I'm going to change the tzuras of mama that I have, which is the cheret tnai sheba mama. The cheret is tnai sheba mama. The cheret I can change, I can do what I want with my nechasim. The teretz is there's anything halacha. Afal pikein. Every year, everyone agrees. It's masna mashikosav b'Torah. One has to understand the Agdor. Now, what does it mean when that's number one, which is a very important hanacha to put on the table? There shouldn't be a shaila in that. The question is, what does it mean, masna? What do you mean you're stipulating? How could you possibly stipulate? I say this, if it would just be davar sheb'mammon, I could understand stipulation because I can do what I want with my money. So I can redefine ownership. And there's a certain chiddush here is that you can't define certain aspects of ownership. That aspect of ownership continuously going to your heirs is something not in your rights to define. Interesting. One would like to have an agdora here, but you need an agdora. If you're not saying you're not the Meirish, you're the Meirish, which means to say, what do you mean you're the Meirish? You're dead and in tachrichim. What do you mean you're the Meirish? As Lashon of the Rashbam was, who is meisuvu nikvar, okay? So vos meant us. It means to say, no, your bailus now, or your bailus at the point of death is what is going which creates the Yerusha. So you can redefine your bailus. So it's a classical davar sheb'mammon. Why would that not work? We have to understand what did he get of the halach of lo yuchal levaker. It's a nice way of saying it's the limitations to the rights of ownership and even in different mammonis. There's certain things you can't do. You don't have the bailus over that aspect of bailus. That's the chayr what it comes out to be. That's the getter of lo yuchal levaker, and that's the getter of and while we understand that, If we, now the question is, but what does it mean? Okay, so by Bechor, I understand it's a pasuk. But why is it called now? Now, if we learn the same halacha also to pshutim, if we say the same halacha is also to pshutim, l'chayra, that's what we're going to have to talk about. Memela, that's going to be a limitation in my rights. So this has to be explored, okay? This has to be explored. But I really want to understand the concept of masna amasha kosev v'Torah. What does Rashbam say? So Rashbam says, Sharei Masneh, he stipulates la'akor davar min haTorah. Now, what's the problem? You can't stipulate something which is what? Which is Oker Divrei Torah. Why not? Why not? Torah says, I continue, my ownership continues. You cannot be Oker that. What seems to be saying, we have to find, is this a Xersa Kosov? Is this a Svara? Is it because there has to be Doimah Libnei Godub Bnei Ruven, the Gemara in Kedushin Samachav, which says that the whole source of Tnoim is learned from the Tnai, the end of Parshas Matas of Bnei Godub Bnei Ruven. Bnei Godub Bnei Ruven wanted to have their Chelik and Yisrael and Ever HaYarden, and if you know that Moshe Rabbeinu, obviously B'shlichus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, stipulated with them, it says, yes, if you go in the forefront of the battle and fight with the Jews in Eretz Yisrael proper and only return after everything, after the total, whatever kibush and chiluk is there, which means 14 years later, then you can have that. And if you don't do it, you are forfeited, you will not have that, and then you have to take your chelik when Eretz Yisrael proper. You can read the Chumash. So over there we learn Kol Hilchos Tnoim. Open up the Gemara Kedushin Samachal for Medalef, Mishnah, middle of the page. There's the famous Machlekes of Reb Meir and Chachamim, all Pirtei Tnoim of Tnai, and read the Taisvus there. Okay, that's now hypothetically you could say it's a chisaron of what of this halach of Bnei Gad Bnei Reuven. This is not like Tnai Bnei Gad Bnei Reuven. Possibility A. Possibility to B would be that simply it's a svara. Now, what would the svara be? What would the svara be? Am I a bailim or not a bailim? For care, ask yourself a question. If you are the bailim and this is mominous, why shouldn't I be able to do it? So what are you going to tell me? Because the pasuk says you can't. So what has the pasuk done? The pasuk simply limited my capability of stipulation. If that's the case, it's what it is saying. He's saying what you're saying is meaningless. You don't have a right to stipulate. It's not because you're Oker David. When the Torah in this specific instance said that this is going to happen, equals you're not a bailim for this. You're not a moirish as far as this is concerned. If that's the pshat, is that the pshat in Masna Masha Kosater and Kol Torah Kula? No. It would fit specifically only for here. Because here we're simply saying you're not a bailim as far as this right is concerned. So if that's the case, that would not be called Masna Masha Kosater because it's Iker Minat Torah. No, so that's not what it means. That means you still are a bailim for everything. And we never limited your bailis. And Alphabet came, there's the halacha that no one can stipulate something, it's a broad rule, which is Iker Dvar Torah. I want the svara. I want the svara or the mucker. He continued, the Rashbam and says, Sharei Masan la'akar davar min ha'Torah, u'bal korcha shel zeh yirash im ha'achim. And whether he wants it or not, this brother will be Irish with the other brothers. In other words, also you don't want to do it, and you're L'chara the Irish, you cannot take away his right. Now, hypothetically, you could say, what's he implying here? It's very dramatic to add that. What does he add? Ubal korchach shozeh yirish im ha'achim. What's he saying here? What's he adding here? Whether you like it or not, this man is going to be urged with the brothers. What did he say? Oh, the l'chara, you're a Irish, and you don't want to be Irish to him. He's going to get it anyway. You cannot take me away from this Yerusha. I have rights. What's he saying? You have no bias to take me away from the Yerusha. What do we need that for? What's he adding? I can't be misalik you from Yerusha by giving everything as B'Lashem Matana Kol Nechad L'Shar Bonav. Sheyomer Shar Bonav Yershu Kol Nechad Sai V'Alib Derech Mem Breika. So what's he saying? I can be misalik you from Yerusha in other ways. Thank you very much. Is this the Department of Information? What has he done over here? He just told me the Mishnah, which says afterwards, is that what he's telling me? He's telling me of the next 3 lines of the Gemara, of the Mishnah. What's he doing? What is he adding over here? Why is he adding it? What does this give us at the moment? What does the Rashbam mean? It seems to be implying that one would have thought that the reason Masamasha Kosim B'Torah is you're not a Bailim, but you can't be Misalik Yerusha. So one would have thought of giving a Matana is also Silika Yerusha. And the Kamash Shmuel is no, that's not a Silika. That's a Silika Yerusha, which is okay because the Velashin Matana. Am I clear? In other words, the Rashbam is inferring, don't think that the Chsaron is because you're manipulating the Ratzon that God wants these guys to have things. And therefore, since you're taking away that which God naturally expects them to have, therefore, Mamela, that is called Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah. You're walking away the intention of God. Says, no, that's not true. Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah is only you do it in a certain fashion. And not if you're circumventing the Ratzon HaTorah. The Ratzon HaTorah that the children should have it equally, and you're circumventing by giving you a present. That is not a problem.
Rabbi, the Mishnah still says that later on.
When we say Divrei Torah, what do we mean? We don't mean the words of the Torah, we mean the Ratzon HaTorah. Because by giving a matana beforehand to everybody and suiting this person, l'chayra, you're circumventing Ratzon HaTorah. Now, is that kind of thing work? Who says a stipulation cannot work and a Maisa matana can work? So it says, yes, there's a difference between a stipulation and a Maisa Matana. And there's a difference. If you're working within the realm of Yerusha, that is called a stipulation. You're redefining the laws of Yerusha. God does not allow you to do that. You're the Meirish, you can't define the laws of Yerusha. Yerusha is there. You're not the Bailim to decide how it's going to happen. That's what Masmash Kotar means. You cannot change the laws written of what Yerusha is. You cannot make a new Yerusha, a new Parshas Yerusha. Parshas Matana Gezunter Hey. That's all the Rashbam is teaching you. Don't think that Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah means to say, since you're circumventing the intent of the Torah. That's why it should be a Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah. May the what will be the din. May the what will be the din. The din will be that what? That should also not work. No, that's not what it means. Circumvent the intent of the Torah has nothing to do with anything. Torah only said what you wanted to do is reconstruct the laws of Yerusha. You want to make a Yerusha which does not exist. That's called Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah.
But Rabbi, doesn't the Mishnah say that also?
Let me.
Say that.
1 minute, I will. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Is that clear?
We're saying that.
I'm not listening. He's not hearing me. I will continue talking, and then you will hear afterwards. I'm take questions soon. I want to get into this before I do anything further. Now, l'chayra, why would you think you can change the laws of Yerusha? And here, l'chayra, that's the difference. What's the difference? What language you use? The implication of this Rashbam is that Chsor and Masa Kosa B'Torah is not because the end result is not what the Torah wanted. The idea is because you're redefining the laws of Yerusha. You have no right to redefine the laws of Yerusha. Why would anybody think you could? What the Rashbam is also inferring that when you do Mechila, that's not redefining the laws of Shulchan Aruch. No, it works with the Shulchan Aruch, that Mechila works. So Mechila would not be called a Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah, just like Matan is not a Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah. God did not say that you can't be Michael. God did not say you can't get presents. God said that the laws of Yerusha are intact. It's a nice, now why would you think you could? If this would just be a law of stipulating out of stipulations because you're a Baal Mama, you want to stipulate what you want. But whoever thought that you can stipulate against the laws of the Torah? For goodness sakes, if a Kosh Baruch Hu will decide that you Shalei Midas have a Yush, you're going to say, I'm not the Yush, Shalei Midas is not Yush. You're a Bailam to decide Shulchan Aruch. What gave you the tzad to think that you can rewrite the Shulchan Aruch? I can understand you can reform your ownership, which will not fit within the perimeters of the Shulchan Aruch. This I understand. I can make my ownership the way I want it, just like I can say that Alvoa will be for 20 days as opposed to 30. And the Rambam says because it's nice b'mama and kayim, stam Alvoa is shloishim yoyim, but it's nice b'mama is kayim. Therefore, I can say it'll be for 100 years, and I can say it'll be for 10 days. Rama writes in Ilchas Malva because Tnai Shemamam and Kayim. That makes sense. I own my money. I can define what I'm giving to you for how long and for what purpose. I can do what I want with my money. Because that's what here the Rambam teach me. That's not the issue here. The question is not what you're doing with your money. The question is what you want to do is redefine the law of Yerusha. That can't work. That's what. Well, otherwise, why is he giving you the speech? He's saying, don't think that matana would be a problem. No, that won't be a problem. Why? Because you can do whatever you want with your money. But Yerusha is a problem. Why? I thought I'm a Meirish. And I have the bilus. You have the bilus within a framework of behavior. That's exactly what the Rambam is teaching. You are a Meirish and Afal Bikain. That's not the question on the table. You're a Meirish, but you don't define what the word Meirish means. You can't define what the word Meirish means because Meirish is an issue, a relation between a Meirish and a Yeirish. You can't define that. God defined it. That's Chus Mammon of Bias, which is called Meirish, and therefore the other person is called a Yeirish. They can't define it. You are a Meirish. The Moshe, I'll give you an example of our halacha. The Gemara says in the beginning of the Perik that I think it's a Taisvis or Rashbam. It says that Lamasha, the din is that Yerusha, Chalukas Yerusha has to be before Shloisha. Din. So Tais, it's either Rashbam or Tais, I don't remember at the moment. One of them writes that the Meirish can decide who the Dayanim will be. Of course, it's his bilus, it's his mumminus. He can define who is going to decide how the mumminus will be distributed. I'm my mumminus. I'm going to define my mumminus who's going to be the apotropos on the decision. That's gesundheit. You can do that. You're a Meirish. There's no question about it. But you can't change Hilchis Yerusha. Now the question is, so what do we say? Because Masa Masha because of Torah is basically saying one thing. No one gave you rights over the system. They gave you rights over your ownership. But no one gave you rights over the system. So how would you think that it would work? Now I'm going to ask the flip side question. Forget it, even if it isn't Masna Masha Kosev B'Torah. But if you want to do is redefine the system, who gave you rights, B'chlal, to define the system? Who taught man that he can change the system? Let me review this again, make it very clear. From the Rashbam, it became clear to me that what the issue on the table was, don't think that Masna Masha Kosev B'Torah, you're circumventing the intent of the Torah. No, that's not it. A matana will work. You are a Meirish, you can do what you want with your money. But you cannot change the concept Meirish and Yeirish. That's called Masna Masha Kosev B'Torah. That's the Arichas of the Rashbam, is to delineate that point. Now, the question is, why would you thought you could? Where would there be a tzad to say that can I tell my wife, I want to redefine Kedushin minus the Yisr of Eishesish? Good question. Why in God's earth would you think you could? Why in God's earth do you think you could? Or I'm going to say a typical thing, which I want to be married for a day. I want to bother, I'm going to time parcel our issues. It shouldn't spread. There's no such thing. Ishus by definition is forever. It's not defined by time. You can't make an ishus, which are not the issues of the Torah. No, you can't write your own ticket. Why would you think you could? Who gave anybody right? Why would you need a question of Masa Masha Kosa B'Torah? They're not there, man. Let's make, what would be the tzad here at all? Well, to understand that, it would seem to be that is exactly what we learned from Hilchos Noam. Hilchos Noam, there we're talking about conditions, but actually the idea they mentioned is stipulations. And that's what we're saying. You cannot, when we learn the halacha that man has right to stipulate and therefore in a certain way to rewrite the system. Bnei Gad, Bnei Ruvain were given rights in Eretz Yisrael, and basically, and now they were allowed to have rights, in alternative rights, in substitute rights in Eivra Yarden. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, but we stipulate, we're going to rewrite the system for you. Normally, you get rights; it's conditionless. Here, we're going to add a new thing which no one else has. We don't have that Yehuda has to help Shimon in order to get Chelik Yehuda. We don't have that who knows who, Binyamin, has to help Don before he gets done. And here we have an old new halacha of stipulation. We're going to say the Hilchos Yerusha of Chelik and Eretz Yisrael of the 2.5 Shvatim are stipulated depending on a certain halacha. We just made a new Torah. We made a personalized Shulchan Aruch. Now, did we uproot a given Shulchan Aruch, or did we create a personalized Shulchan Aruch? There was no uprooting of anything because the system itself says that this is what we're going to do. Now, from here we learn Hilchos Noam. What are we learning in Hilchos Noam? In Hilchos Noam, we are learning that basically man has been given the right in certain fashions to make a personalized Shulchan Aruch. For example, when I say Harayat Mekudeshesli, and you, but the kedushin will be chal al manas sheyirtza abba. What have you done here? You basically said the din is that kedushin normally works as soon as you give the ring, it's done. You added a certain component to this kedushin, which the Torah doesn't say. And you added a component. You've made a personalized Ma'aseh Kedushin. I need the ring plus daddy saying yes. The Torah doesn't mention it. You are allowed to add a component. You added a component to the Ma'aseh Kedushin, to the Chalais. You basically say this Ma'aseh, the Chalais will be Chal now, but daddy has to agree. Okay? What have you done? You added a component to the Shulchan Aruch, which is exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu did. You get a chelik in Eretz Yisrael. We've added a component. You have to yetzer chalutzim fnei achichem, and that's more than just a davar shebamammon. Without going into the particulars, because the chelik in Eretz Yisrael is more than just private mammon. I want to put this on the table. Why do I say this? Because there are quite a few Rishonim that hold the davar shebamammon. You don't need a tnai kofel. Yet we learned tnai kofel for Chalukas Eretz Yisrael. No one thinks that Chalukas Eretz Yisrael is defined by the limitations of private ownership. But just remember that. We're not doing a shir on Eretz Yisrael at the moment. When you learn the Gemara in Kedushin, which you probably will, some Mechalef in Kedushin, you're going to have to think about that. So the Gedder of Tnai is basically a halacha that man has the right to stipulate a custom-tailored Shulchan Aruch to add components to it. We have multiple things. We have an idea of Hidur Mitzvah, which is the same halacha. A subjective way of doing a mitzvah allows it to be Mechal Shabbos. There, what's mentioned by the din of Mila, the halacha is that tzitzin, which are not makir, certain pieces of the flesh are there. If you don't cut, we couldn't care less. Torah doesn't demand it. But afal pikein, if you want to do it because of Hidur Mitzvah, which is subjective involvement, okay, you can do that even on Shabbos. Either Torah only says to do what is needed on Shabbos, you add your subjective addition, has made a custom tailored mitzvah's mila, and that all becomes something which is called a mitzvah, and that's done on Shabbos. And a chanami, that's a shaila in halacha. What happens if you in shaila gemara? If hypothetically you stopped and you left it hanging, and 5 minutes later you want to come back to do that on Shabbos, that you can't, because that's subjective involvement. But you can decide this is part of the mitzvah. What are you doing? You're redefining the scope of the mitzvah. It's not just the small, that piece, it includes everything. You redefine. You made yourself a private surah of mitzvah mila. And a private surah of mitzvah mila is Doicha Shabbos, that the halacha of Zekeli Van Veyu. The halacha from Nei Godim, Nei Reuven, we learned that man has the right to make a private, you can add components to the Shulchan Aruch and make yourself a private Shulchan Aruch. Now, what are the limitations, etc.? We'll talk about some other time. There's a lot to talk about. That's the getter of every t'nai, not a question of condition or not condition. A typical thing like this would be the Mishnah in Peah. Mishnah says in Peah, in Perik Vav, Mishnah Yud Aleph. Guy says, here, Im Omar, Harei ani koitzer, al menas ma shani shocheach ani etol. Now, normally, Allah is when you reap, when you harvest your field, so whatever you forget is called shikha, and that belongs to the aniyim. Leket, shikha, and peah. You have to leave aside things that fall when you collect it. You have to leave it on the floor for the aniyim. You just learned rus, so you must know that. Rus was into leket. Or, so to speak, shikha, you forgot a bundle. What happens if he stipulates b'shas ksira and he says ma shani shocheach ani noito? It's not la'aniyim. Does it work? It doesn't it work? So the Gemara Mishnah says no. Yesh lo shikha as a din of shikha. Why? Zokt about Tanura the master mashe kosev b'toira v'tnai botel. He's master mashe kosev b'toira, and therefore the tnai is botel. Hello, is he conditioning anything with anybody? What's he saying? And if it doesn't work, I'm not cutting, or the cutting is not called cutting. What's he doing here? Is there a second side to this? Is he conditioning anything here? What's he doing? See, when you say that, and if not, I don't want the kedushin. This I understand. You could call that a condition. Or when I sell you, I say I read mekudeshli im yirtza abba vim lo yirtza abba ein mekudeshes. You can say I don't want if ein mekudeshes. I don't want a kedushin if that he doesn't want. That I understand. That's called conditioning. What are you going to say exactly by harvesting, by cutting the stalks of your wheat? I am cutting the stalks of this wheat with the stipulation that that whatever I forget afterwards will be mine. And if not, what am I doing? I'm not cutting. It's cut. You don't have to give it to the aniyim. It belongs to the aniyim. So what exactly are you doing? What kind of t'nai is that? What gives you the right to do this? What are you going to say? Oh, I don't want it to be the aniyim. Who cares what you want? It's mammon aniyim, mordekul. It's not just mammon aniyim. The Rash writes in Peah. Yes, the kasha. Why do we need a pasuk to say that like Peah is potter from Maisrus? Typically, it's hefker, and hefker is potter from Maisrus. You know what the Rash answers? The Rash answers not hefker. It grew for the aniyim. Since it grew for the aniyim, it's not hefker. So I don't understand. This grew for them, man. It grew for them. What exactly are you doing here? Who are you conditioning with? You're some makna over here. Okay, there's Rabbi Kiva as big as the gullus here on the side. I sent it to you. But it's a Chabal al Azman. It's another Pashit. I'm not conditioning because T'nai does not mean condition. T'nai means stipulate. T'nai means stipulating a custom-tailored Shulchan Aruch. And so just like Moshe Rabbeinu can stipulate a certain components into the matana of Chelka Sherat Yisrael, which is not a Davar Shabbat, and there's a din of T'nai Kafel, etc., all there, very known well. And the law is it works because there was nothing negating it. If there was nothing saying that there has to be shikha, I just want it was optional. I'm going to say I'm stipulating a private shulchan aruch that there's no shikha. That's the chiddush of T'noim. I can make a custom tailored shulchan. I can redefine shulchan aruch, and the answer you can redefine by adding. You can't redefine by carrying out a piece. You can add to the Shulchan Aruch. You cannot change. You can change the Shulchan Aruch by addition. You can't change the Shulchan Aruch by omission. You can't delete from the Shulchan Aruch. That's the getter of Masna Masha Kosev Batar. That's why this Mishnah makes sense. It's called the Bartanur. It's Masna Masha Kosev Batar. That's the halacha in the Chesnoim. There'll be a major nafkamina. Do you have to say a T'nai Kofel here or not? If you learn, if the whole halacha is based l'chayra from the din of Bnei Gad of Bnei Ruvain, which we learn in Kedushas HaMachalef, there's a machlekes Rav Meir Chachamim, whether you need a T'nai Kofel. T'nai Kofel means to say you have to say, if this happens, this will happen. If Daddy agrees, the Kedushin will be a Kedushin. And if Daddy doesn't agree, the Kedushin will not be a Kedushin. There's a halacha of clearly verifying your intent. Not the getter of T'nai Kofel. You clearly have to verify the intent. And there's an interesting machlekes. Machlekes is found in multiple places, also in the Dorim, by the way, whether we say Michlal Hein at the Shomea Lav and Michlal Lav at the Shomea Hein. When someone makes a one-sided stipulation, if X will happen, I will commit, do we naturally understand as if he's said, and if it doesn't happen, he doesn't commit? And that's not called Dvarim Shabalev, that's called Munach in the Dvarim, or to say, no, we know it's your intent, but that's Dvarim Shabalev, you didn't say it. That's a machlekes Rav Meir v'chachamim la'alacha. So Rav Meir says you have to say T'nai Kofel. Why do you need a T'nai Kofel? Because we do. It's very nice. It's one shabalev. You have to say it. Michlal lav enat hashomea hein. You have to say it. I don't hear it. I understand it. That's one of the places where shomea does not mean understand. Shomea means hear. Remember this. I just explained something important. Okay, so this is the agdor of this halacha. Very fine. So what's going to be the din by Masna Masha Kosev B'Torah? That's also an interesting shaila. Now this gets a bit sticky. Okay, so this is l'chayr what's happening here. Just before I go further, this is l'chayr what's happening here. So that's why it's called a Masna Masha Kosev B'Torah. What we're saying, this is not condition, it's stipulation. The source of such a capability of stipulation is l'chayr Pnei Gad Bnei Ruvain, the Gemara in Kedushas HaMachalef. And therefore, l'chayra, and there are conditions of how it must be done and expressed. Question is, are those conditions l'chayra should be applying also here? Granted. Therefore, he obviously said, I want this to happen. And if I don't want it to happen. He said it clear as day. Because if you're learning this whole halacha from Bnei Gad Bnei Ruvain, you only know when it's a clear, in order to stipulate something, we have to know a clear knowledge of your intent. Your intent, and now it gets very interesting. You're saying, if not, I do not want it. What is the idea behind it? It's not like saying like I'd like this to happen, but it doesn't matter. No, I need you to say, I really want this to happen. I want the law to change. And that's why I'm making this activity with a stipulation of change of law. So normally it works only if you add to the law, not if you delete from the law. That's the getter of the halacha. No. So l'chayra, according to this, one more thing. I'd like to show you that's the getter of this halacha. Okay, that's the getter of this. That now this more Mishnah starts to begin to make sense. Summary: you're a Meirish, the Kula Alma. What does the pasuk say? Masna Masha Kosev B'Torah says the only koyach you have of stipulation is from Bnei Gad Bnei Ruvain. Over there, you can only add. We never gave you koyach to subtract. Now this is another piece on the table. So in other words, every Masna Masha Kosev B'Torah, on one hand, you didn't say anything. You said something which is meaningless. Why? Because you said, I want the Torah to subtract. No one gave you the right. You can say it, but the Torah doesn't plan to subtract itself, and you have no way of halachically causing it to subtract itself. There are no laws which allow you to do that, and they won't do it. So quite a few things happen here. First of all, your t'nai isn't a t'nai to begin with. You use language which is meaningless. You never live from the right to do that. So A, there's no t'nai. B, my dear friend, not only is there no t'nai, but your t'nai was never fulfilled. What did you say? You said this will happen if the system agrees to change itself. Well, the system doesn't agree. So in other words, in every masna mashikosa b'Torah, you have two things happening. A, you're talking narishkeit. You're simply saying things which you have no right to say. It says, I'm going to start saying, I'm selling your house. You're out of your field, man. Okay, you want to sell my house? First buy it. You know what I mean? So I'm stipulating that the Torah should change itself. The Torah looks at you and says, what else is new? Today's Thursday. I hope you went to a minyan. You know what I mean? It's garnished. You're nobody. You're not a less balvorm to diat. You're nobody to do anything. There's a chshon in the lashain in the ma'isa. You're not a masna. You're not a person here. You're not a baldin. I say specifically, it's not a chshon in your lashain. It's not chshon. It says you're not a baldin. You're nobody here. That's Aleph. B, what else the problem is that even if you would be a Baldin, but you made a condition and the answer was no. Everyone tells me, I pray and I'm not getting an answer. So what do you mean? You did get an answer. The answer was no. There's no tefillah which is never answered. I promise you. Just sometimes the answer you don't like to hear. It's called no. Important thing to remember. Don't be angry at God when he doesn't answer your prayers. He answered. It's not exactly the answer you want to hear. Somehow you think you have a contract that whenever he says anything, it's like your daddy when you cry hard, he gives it to you. Well, this daddy thinks no. He doesn't mind saying no because he doesn't have to listen to your screaming. Okay? He can live without it. The system said no. So Masna Masha Kosmeter Ershens Bistishke Masna. Beis, the Tnai wasn't Miskayim. Both things happened. Now, there's a third thing which you have to put in your mind. What happens if you said something you really want it to happen? And you really want this to happen. If not, you didn't want to do the Kiddush. I want a Kiddushin with a certain stipulation. And you have no right to say it, but you stipulate, but that's the kind of Kiddushin you want. So why does the Kiddushin work? If I say, what happens if I say, I make it a master masha kosev b'Torah? What the halacha? The t'nai is batel, and the mais is kayim. That's the halacha. Master masha kosev, your stipulation is meaningless, and the laws of Yerusha continue the way they are. That's good by the laws of Yerusha. That I don't need your das to be Meirish. I need your bailis to be Meirish. Your das is nothing. You dead. You're mace for cover. But what happens in the case where I need your das to be Meirish, or I need your das to make a kinyan? No t'nai. I went out of my bounds. But at the end of the day, that's what I wanted. So how can the Kedushin be chal? How can the Mekech be chal? How can anything be chal? Bishleim by a t'nai of Yerusha, or a t'nai of Lekachikrim Peya that we learned. That I understand. We don't need your das. You can't. The chiddush is you can't add. You can't stipulate for an omission of the halacha. But in a case where there's another aspect, I need your das. Well, your das was you clearly said, I will be mekayish this girl if God rewrites the Shulchan Aruch. And if he doesn't write the Shulchan Aruch, I do not want to be mekayish the girl. That's what you said. That's what it's like kofel means. Hariyat mikudeshes amana she'ein lachalai shek shusvayna ve'im yesh lachalai shek shusvayna harei eini mikachech. That's what tnai kofel is. Okay, so in a place where you need das, forget it, no t'nai. But there's no das for the Kenyan. So why do we say that t'nai is batal and the mais is kayim?
Rabbi, don't we not need Tanai Kafel by Avanas?
That's in Machlekes Rishonim. You obviously know that, right?
Yeah.
That's
So,
Hagoinim and big Machlekes Rishonim. Look at the Rush in Gittin. I think the fourth parak, Simi Yutes. Big Machlekes Rishonim. But everyone agrees that Be'amanas should Amash Kos B'Torah Tnai's bottle and Maises Kayim. The only Machlekes is whether you need Tnai Kofel there or not. You probably read a bit of the Rambam. But then you have to read the Hezbollah, the Ravid is explaining. I'll do that tomorrow. When you read the Ravid brought down in the Rush and Gittin, you'll understand that it's not pertinent to anything I'm saying at the moment. Look it up. Okay? You'll see. The Ravid explains what he explains there. And we'll talk about that tomorrow, not tomorrow, Sunday, whatever it is. At the end of the day, this is the real problem on the table. This is the problem which actually the Ramban asks. This is the Maisa of the Kasha of the Ramban. The Ramban asks, if you have your Rambans in front of you, that's the question that he asks. Ramban asked the question, in Divrei HaMasla, Rezum Kudeshes V'tnoi Bato. They're talking about a masna menashe ein lechalai shirksus v'ayna. So we say I raise him kudeshes v'tnai batel because we hold it's a masna mashikosa b'ter al korchen hai tnai kofelu. This is obviously talking by a tnai kofel. Now it's interesting the word al korchen. What's he referring to? I will leave that to you for the next time. Dilo kafle afilo lo yisna mashikosa b'ter tnai batel divrei meir. So what does that mean? So in other words, he was kofel at night. We know exactly what he means. Because what's the old getter by kofel? A clear representation of his das. Again, the country of Meir, if we don't have a tnai kofel, the flip side, if it doesn't happen, I don't want it, is a dvarim shebelev and not dvarim. It's only because you went to the tnai kofel because we think, no, in order that everything should be dvarim. Let's put this on the table. So it's not dvarim shalevi, it's a dvarim brurim. In other words, it's a clear das that if this doesn't happen, he doesn't want it. The kivan shekain, since this is true, you have a major puzzling issue. Hey, chamrina, raise a mekudesh with tnai batel. How can you say that she's mekudesh and the tnai is batel? Kivan the tnai batel ain't a mekudesh. What does the word tnai batel here mean? Kivan the tnai batel ain't a mekudeshes. The hachi asna. What does that mean? Kivan the tnai batel. Because the tnai is batel, it's annulled. That's why she's not mekudesh. Because he had made that tnai. No. You have to understand. Here the lashon batel doesn't mean annulled. Here the lashon batel means not fulfilled. Otherwise, you can't read this. It's a ritva in Kiddushin Chav Gimel, which uses the same language. Actually, your test. I'll show it to you Sunday. Here he simply says, here's what he's saying is interesting. Here he's pointing out that Masna Masha Kosa B'Torah is not because you don't have the capability of stipulation. It's because you can stipulate, but the Torah doesn't agree. He takes for granted at the moment the Cheshon and Masna Kosa B'Torah that you didn't have the right to stipulate. Masna Kosa B'Torah, the Torah won't fulfill that condition, that doesn't accept the stipulation. And therefore he asks, since the Torah doesn't agree, you made the T'nai, but you know what? And the answer for God says, what was the T'nai with? The T'nai is with who? With the system. I am making a condition if the system will agree to delete certain parts of it. And if not, I don't want the system, I don't want the condition. And the system answered, we do not do this. That's what Masna Masha Kosa B'Torah means. T'nai batel. It means the T'nai is not fulfilled. And since the T'nai is not fulfilled, and you only wanted the Kedushin if the T'nai was fulfilled, but mainly the Kedushin shouldn't work. That's the Kasha of the Ramban. Look at the language again. He says, V'kiven shekain ika lemisma lehecha mina reizim mekudeshes v'tnai batel, means what? And the T'nai was not fulfilled. Because if it meant the T'nai is annulled and there's no T'nai, what's the problem? It's another type of a question. He said, T'nai batel, kivan the T'nai batel, since the T'nai is batel, ein mekudeshes. The hachi asna, what does that sentence mean? Since the T'nai, if we're going to read, since the T'nai is annulled, why she cannot be mekudeshes? because he had so stipulated. I don't understand. How is that since the T'nai is annulled? But if you read it, since the T'nai is not fulfilled, and he stipulated that he wants a Kedushin if the T'nai is fulfilled equals if the system will back off, then there's a good question. I condition that this will be a Kedushin only with the system that backs off. The system didn't back off. That's not the Kedushin that I wanted. So first read this carefully. The language here of Batal is not implying that he has no capability of stipulation. The language here is talking about that the system simply doesn't agree. You're stipulating to the system, and the system told you no. That's the kasha of the Ramban. That is the question of Ramban. At this stage, he seems to be saying that the Ichsaron and Maslam Asher is not because you're not a Baldin. Remember, we said two possibilities. Possibility A is you're not a Baldin to do this. No one gave you the koyach. Possibility B is the system's going to tell you no. It's very clear from the language of the Ramban at this stage, he's doing with the second option, not with the first. Let's see if anything changes during the flow of the Ramban, because if it stays that way, we have a question, and we'll have to deal with that shortly. Okay, that should be enough for now. This is where we start. We will continue this. I sent you a copy of this with different numbers. If you look carefully, each one of those numbers carries an idea that you should be thinking about. I didn't send you the ideas, come do it orally, but there's like 14 issues, numbers there. So you figure wherever there's a line and a number, there you have to use the gray cells between your ears or shy between your headphones. Okay, take care. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Shabbos. Call to
Rabbi.
What?
Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yes.
why can't it be that since the T'nai is annulled, he only had das for Kedushin with the T'nai, so therefore the Kedushin shouldn't work.
The T'nai is annulled. What do you mean the T'nai is annulled? It means that he has no, the T'nai is there, he just doesn't have a right to make a T'nai.
Why can't it be saying like the
T'nai,
first?
I'm Nasir, I have a right to make a T'nai.
But why can't it be like the first option that Rabbi was saying?
What's he saying? He's saying, I wanted Kedushin with this, and I'm not getting what I want.
Yeah. But it could also be saying that since the T'nai.
Look at the language. It's a question of sensitive language.
If you understand.
Chavali Osman, I'll show you parallels in language on Sunday. You'll see with that kind of language. Before you read, look it up in Ksubas Yutes, Amid Beit Divrei Masal Tanya Idach. Okay, look up the Ritva Ksubas Yutes Amid Beit Divrei Masal Tanya Idach. You'll see the language of bottled meaning exactly what I said. It's Pashut. That's the simpler read. Sorry. There's X amount of years of reading versus X amount of years of perusing. And that's basically why I said what I said. Sorry, pulling rank on you now. That isn't fair. Okay. Have a beautiful Shabbos. Look up the Ritva. You'll see what I'm saying. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi. Have a good Shabbos.
Great Shabbos, everybody.